All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And this update could be a long one because we have quite a few things to talk about since my last video. I did take the weekend off to spend time with family, with it being Easter. One of my daughters and her husband came home for the weekend on Friday, and so we were busy all weekend with Easter activities, and I did not have time to get a video up. But we're going to show a few of the things I picked up for Superman Day. There was a lot of stuff that was announced. I have some pictures of some of the stuff that was announced for Superman Day. And so we're going to take a look at a lot of stuff today. And I'm also going to show you how James Gunn is the biggest narcissist you can possibly envision. One of the things that actually got released on Superman Day was a behind-the-scenes video for Superman, which really wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty good, okay? I don't have too much to complain about the video except for one thing, and it's actually pretty big. I want everybody who has watched that behind-the-scenes video to go back and watch it one more time and just pay attention to how much of it is about James Gunn. This movie is not about Superman. It's about James Gunn. It's all about James Gunn. Watch how many times James Gunn says I, or people refer to James Gunn in the video, and how many times they say Superman in the video, or point to the film itself. James Gunn never says we. He never talks. It takes hundreds of people to create a movie. He always talks about himself. The dog, he put his dog in the film, not the dog from the comic books. He brought his dog into it, and he had this thought of what if my dog had superpowers? How awful would that be? And he wanted to translate that into film. We're also going to see some stuff that has gone on with the film itself, which I think the film is in trouble. I really do. And we're going to look at some stuff. There's a lot to talk about. Now, real quick, before I get into the screen grabs, I wanted to address two different things. Number one, if you're not following me on X, you want to follow me on X because I post a lot of stuff on there that I don't show on here. I'm not always going to go to my X profile and show you guys everything. But last week, there's still some people out there that don't believe I'm a voice actor. It's what I do for a living, and that's going to tie into something I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but it's what I do for a living. And I posted actually one of my favorite voiceovers actually on X the other day, and it had to do with the whole WWE event that was out this weekend. And years ago, I did a Roman Reigns commercial for this product called Flip Madness, which I think either came out of Europe or it came out of Canada. I don't remember which. But I did a voiceover for that, and it starred Roman Reigns. And that company was nice enough to let me share that wherever I wanted to. So it's one of the things that I always share with people. I did share that link on X. If you guys are interested in seeing it here, I could probably include it in one of the videos, or you can go to X and check it out. The second thing is there is one individual who makes comments in my videos quite a bit. Again, I'm not going to name other channels at this stage, but he has been making videos kind of rebutting, I don't know how you say it, just basically talking about a lot of things I've said in my videos. And he did something pretty noble the other day. He did mention at the beginning of one of his videos, somebody was there were not just one person, there were people coming in making fun of my looks. Okay. And all I have to say about that is thank you for that. I don't put up for that kind of stuff either. When you personally attack people, it shows you have no argument. You have none whatsoever. You get into the personal stuff. And I will not put up with that, and nobody else should as well. It's wrong. But as far as my looks go, I know where I'm not perfect. I know I have messed up teeth. And you know what? I can't change that because I'm a voice actor. If I got braces, it would keep me from doing what I need to do for voiceovers. So not a possibility for me. Maybe years down the road, maybe. But at this stage, I don't care. And you know what? I don't care what people say about my looks. I'm happy with who I am. I have a family. I have a wife who loves me. I have an amazing family. So I'm not a girl. I'm not somebody who obsesses over my looks 24/7. So those attacks aren't going to do anything to me. And so if people make those kinds of attacks, they just get blocked and they get pushed aside. Because when that's all people can talk about, they have no argument. All right, guys, so let's get into today's screen grabs. So the first thing I have here is Entertainment Weekly and Variety ran with this story, and you're going to see several other stills in regards to this later, where it said, this came out actually on Superman Day. It said, former Batman Ben Affleck has revealed he hated donning the bat suit, calling it horrendous to wear and made him instantly exhausted and really sweaty. No thought put into the human being. And then the New Geeks posted right after that, Ben Affleck talking about how he really enjoyed playing Batman and putting the suit on. And it's really strange that these outlets, Variety posted it no less than 3 times that I noticed. And it's pretty crazy that they posted the same thing 3 different times in a 24-hour time period. What is the studio afraid of? They have to put these little tiny hit pieces out there that don't mean anything. It's like they're afraid of something. They're afraid of people like my channel and other people who are talking about this. They're afraid that we're never going to go away, and we're not. Also, it is being reported that Warner Brothers Discovery, the company, has hired bankers to work out options that include a potential separation of its legacy assets from the company's future-looking streaming and studio entities. This is something that Warner Brothers Discovery and Zaslav has wanted to do for a while. It's the legacy assets that are in debt. If they can stick to the streaming and the studio, they'll make money. But they have all this other stuff that is attached to Warner Brothers Discovery that Zaslav wants to get rid of and break off, and it just wasn't possible in the past. I don't think the government was going to allow him to do it, so he is going to be trying again. Also, we're going to look at something here where director Gavin O'Connor, who I believe he directed The Accountant 2, I'm actually going to be doing a review on that maybe later today. That might be up later today or tomorrow. I got to see that last week, and I'm going to do my review on that. But director Gavin O'Connor opens up about his sequel to the DCU's first Suicide Squad film and why it was initially canceled. And let's look at what he had to say. Gavin did an interview while promoting his new movie, The Accountant 2. He spoke about his scrapped Suicide Squad sequel. O'Connor was able to share one tidbit about his ultimately unproduced script for the film. It was really a father-daughter story with Deadshot and his daughter. Ultimately, Will Smith's Deadshot was not in the film at all, and Gunn both wrote and directed the finished film, which was released in 2021. Says O'Connor on how his Suicide Squad movie met its untimely end. It's another example of the dysfunction of our industry. I had a very specific take. They wanted to do it. I think I was probably 3/4 of the way into the script when they brought in a new regime and all the DC people I was working with were gone. I was writing on the lot. I got a little bungalow there. My writing partner and I would just meet there and write every day. There was a knock on the door, and it was the new DC president. He said, "So, where are you with the script?" I said, "It's almost done." And he said, "Can I read it?" And I said, "Well, you can read it when it's finished." A couple of weeks later, I gave it to him, and he said, "Can you make it a comedy?" And I said, "That's not what I wrote, and that's not the agreement I had with the studio." He wanted to make it into a comedy. And I was like, all right, I guess I won't be working here. This is what Warner Brothers thinks DC should be. Comedy, 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 comedy. And it doesn't work. If you look at how much money the DCU made when it was serious versus when everything turned into a comedy, it's a night and day difference. The mainstream audience is tired of comedies, especially when it comes to their superheroes. If you look at what happened in the last 2 Thor films, it's a prime example of how you ruin movies by turning them into comedies. So here was Variety, and I actually saw this, I think, before the Entertainment Weekly story, but it said, Ben Affleck hated suiting up to play Batman. The bat suits are horrendous to wear, they don't breathe. I said, another DCU hit piece, pathetic. Won't change the fact that people are pissed at the studio. Keep trying. And I want you to see how I ratioed them. And I think this is why they wanted to post this story multiple times. They don't like it when people in their comments get ratioed. And it's more people are upset that they're changing all these actors. Nobody asked for Ben Affleck to be changed out. Nobody asked for Henry Cavill to be changed out. Marvel will continue with the same people no matter what happens. DC likes to change things up, and people are tired of them changing things up. Here was another article by Variety. Again, I kept saying, why do you guys keep posting the same story? I hated the bat suits. The bat suits are horrendous to wear. They're hot for one thing. They don't breathe. They're made to look like the way they want them to look. There's no thought put into the human being. So what happens if that is that you just start sweating? And there was more to it, but they kept posting this story at least 3 times that I saw. The studio is afraid of people like me. They're afraid of the other ones who don't want the DCEU gone. Right now, I don't think I shared this in the last video, but this is... this just cracks me up. This is the Kaiju Slime Battle playset from, I don't even know what company is doing this. Is this well, it says DC Studios on there, but I don't know if this is Mattel, is it Kenner? They don't really show, or is it McFarlane? But if you compare this to the McFarlane toys that came out with, Superman and Doomsday, it's a night and day difference. This just looks goofy. Here's a look at Mr. Terrific, and some of these went up for sale already, and some are going to go up for sale in July. You've got Lex Luthor, and these are from McFarlane Toys, by the way. The DC Connoisseur posted, Universal releases a Jurassic Park trailer. Disney releases a Fantastic Four trailer. Warner Brothers, hit piece. Not just at Entertainment Weekly, but also at Variety. It's really strange how they're marketing the Superman film. It's really crazy. Also, Mondo announced on Superman Day that they're going to be doing 1/6 scale figures for Superman the Animated Series. I wish I would have found them back when they started the Batman the Animated Series ones, because I want to get my hands on the Mr. Freeze figure that they did, but it is ridiculously expensive. But it is amazing, but I won't pay $1,000 for one of these figures. I just won't do it. All right, so here's one of the things I picked up on Superman Day. This is a keychain that I will not be using because I don't want the red to chip away. And so I will have this probably sit here in my studio with me, but I won't actually be using it. Here's what the back, it has Superman on there, and it says, DC Comics. And so with Man of Steel and them going in a different direction, stuff like this just is not going to become available anymore. And this was the last one at my comic shop. Now, this was interesting. It says David Fleming, The Last of Us, will be composing the Superman score alongside John Murphy. I think this is another sign that there is an issue with the film, because it's very rare. They don't do collaborations all the time. And James Gunn came out and said right as the film was starting that they already had like 90% of the score written. They've had a lot of time to work on this film. Why do they need to bring in David Fleming? I even clicked on the link to find out more details, and they didn't give any. It's pretty crazy that John Murphy is not doing this alone when he had all that time to work on it. Now, there are reports that maybe they're having to do this because one of the stories we're going to be looking at here in a minute is how much of the movie they've supposedly cut at this stage. And it sounds like it's going to be utterly butchered, and they may have to adjust the score because of that, and they may have to bring in help to get it done on time. Now, it says James Gunn and Jim Lee on the Warner Brothers Studios tour, greeting fans for Superman Day. I have no interest in ever meeting Gunn, but I would love to meet Jim Lee. He is one of my favorite artists down there in DC, and I would love to get him to sign some stuff to get his autograph. That would be awesome. All right, now this is the other big thing. So Siba posted this. Wait, did they actually make Gunn cut 20 minutes? I thought DC Studios and Warner Brothers were separate. This comes from a Letterboxd post where they said Superman is down to 104 minutes. Originally, it was 144 minutes. It was basically 1 hour or 2 hours and 24 minutes long. And then we heard that 20 minutes of it got cut. Now we're hearing that an additional 20 minutes got cut. And one of the reports is it's that one of those cuts is the 10-minute scene that James Gunn talked about between Superman and Lois, where she basically woman-splains everything to Superman about politics and life. And so supposedly that was cut from the film, and it doesn't look like the studio is really happy with his cut. And it has been confirmed now that there are at least 7 different villains all together in the film. And I don't know how they're going to get all of this to work. They're so focused on the promotional stuff with James Gunn himself that there's very little focus on Superman himself, which is crazy. It's supposed to be a Superman film, and now he's got to share it with all these other characters. Now, on Superman Day, James Gunn actually posted this. And I don't remember if I had this in my last video or not, but I actually cropped this so you could see the Superman suit and just how terrible it looks. Everything from the boots to the elbows, everything. This suit just looks terrible. It just does. It is not a good suit. And James Gunn posted this as a behind-the-scenes photo on the Superman set. You can't even see David Cornsweet's face, and the other half of this was Lois and some other crew members on the right, and the crew members didn't look happy on the other side. But again, another behind-the-scenes photo is James Gunn. Like, the guy cannot separate himself from this. I have never, ever, ever seen another director insert himself into so many promotional materials for the film that he is directing. Now, people come in and say, well, Zack Snyder did the same thing. Other directors do the same thing. Yes, there are always some behind-the-scenes photos with the directors. This is excessive, and these are shared by the director directly. A lot of the other behind-the-scenes photos are by other photographers, not being shared by the creator themselves. James Gunn is a narcissist. Go back and watch the behind-the-scenes video again. It's crazy. Now, I thought this was pretty cool. Ryan Coogler. So he just directed the Sinners film, confirmed that Zack Snyder is among the filmmakers he admires. He admires that he works with his wife. James Gunn is not mentioned. He doesn't care about him and his wife, and they're literally useless. And I thought that was just kind of funny. Coogler notes that many filmmakers he admires has worked with their significant others. I remember having a meeting with Zack Snyder at one point, and his wife, Deborah Snyder, was there running his stuff. And I had a meeting with J.J. Abrams and his wife, with them running their stuff, Coogler says. And I was like, oh, no, I'm doing this shit completely wrong. Then we met Christopher Nolan and Emma Thomas in 2015. When we went down to meet with them, that's when I started hard selling Zinzi. Now, he talks about all those people, but he never brings up James Gunn and his wife, which is kind of funny. But everyone talks about how Zack Snyder has been influential in what they're doing. All right, now I had to grab these photos because this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these 4 photos pretty quickly, and these show the suit difference between the DCU suits and the new DCU suits, and it's a big difference. Look at how awesome and majestic that suit looks. Same with the Batman suit. I mean, these costumes for the film are just utterly amazing. And then we have the ones from the DCU. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. It's just crazy. The difference is insane. All right, so talking about some of these changes with the score and also the runtime of the film. And a lot of this stuff, other than the score, the runtime is still just a rumor at this stage. But Grace Bella posted this and says, Aaron, this aligns to the report that Gunn and Safran have no complete autonomy with DC. Warner Brothers higher-ups will still have the power, as usual, to meddle with DC. DC studio head position is just a paper tiger position. And this comes from Variety. And Variety said, meanwhile, there has been some confusion on the series front about who is the ultimate gatekeeper. Unlike the Marvel-Disney relationship in which Marvel controls the creative process and Disney Plus merely releases the content, Max is creatively involved with the DC slate. Gunn and Safran don't enjoy the same autonomy as Marvel's Kevin Feige. Yeah, we're seeing now that maybe the studio is pushing because there are some reports coming out of the film that the film is still in trouble. And we're going to see that here in one of the screen grabs I have. Here is the official logo for Superman Day. It's funny how they use the traditional logo and not the one from the film. But Superman Day was focused on Superman himself. They're going to be rebooting the Superman comic coming up in July. So if you're going to want to hit your comic shop and get all the details on the new titles and how it's being rebooted. So you're going to want to go check that out. Now, this goes against what James Gunn has talked about in the past as well, how everybody was going to play one role, but Alan Tudyk has now officially played 4 characters in the new DCU, which is kind of funny. And I could tell you, as a voice actor, every one of those characters, he gets a payday for it. So why couldn't they split that up against 3 other actors? Why does it all have to go with Alan Tudyk? And nothing against Tudyk. He is actually one of my favorite actors. This guy has some comedic timing unlike other people. He is truly funny. I met him at a Comic-Con, probably 4 or 5 years ago. Loved it. He was really fun to talk to. Really cool guy. I respect the crap out of him, but they need to spread the love. Now, there was a lot of talk over the weekend about John Campea on his show, how he was saying the Batman 2 is likely to get canceled. And then somebody posted the full clip, and where he doesn't think it's going to get canceled, but he said as far as the possibilities of the Batman getting folded into the DCU or the Batman getting canceled altogether, he thinks the Batman 2 would get canceled before they ever fold the Batman into the DCU because it doesn't fit the tone. And everybody recognizes the tone. The tone is not going to be serious. And so he alluded in this interview that he has some inside knowledge that he is unwilling to share. Here is the Lobo cover, not incentive cover, but Superman, Summer of Superman special I picked up at the comic shop. I had to go to a second comic shop. Maya ran out of all of the issues, so I had to go to a different comic shop, and they only had the Crypto cover and this cover, and I opted for this cover. Luckily, underneath the Lobo cover is the regular cover, but I would have preferred to have the regular cover in general. But hey, if you've picked this up and you've read through it, I haven't read through it yet, give your comments down below in the comments section. Here is the cover, and I'm going to point something out that somebody pointed out on Twitter about this. This is the Superman Welcome to Metropolis, an official novel inspired by the film, the prequel junior novel. Okay, this goes along with the book that I talked about in my previous video, and somebody mentioned about how long his neck is, and whoever's doing this, they need to go back to Photoshop school and should not be part of the marketing because they can't get the proportions right on David Corenswet himself, which is very true. I told you guys this is going to be a long video. Now, there's one thing I wanted to talk about that I thought I grabbed a screen grab of, but it's not showing up here in my photos, is there was an interview with a couple of people, and I think Nerdotic was a part of this, and one of the guys knew several people who had been to the screening of Superman, and he talked about how one of them came away saying the film doesn't know what it wants to be as far as the tone goes. It really doesn't know. It's all over the place, and the person that he talked to really did not like the film, and he specifically stated that this person said that the film felt like a series of superhero films where it should have been like the third or fourth film in the series that they just throw you into the world with no explanation, no backstory, no nothing, and for the average person, they're going to be confused. And I do believe that that could easily happen with Superman. I think it's too jam-packed with too many characters, and, this may not resonate with audiences. A lot of people are still expecting Henry Cavill to come back. I still come back to the point that the actual general audience right now still does not know that a Superman film is even coming out. X is a very small part of society. YouTube is a very small part. If you don't get these trailers in front of people and get stuff in front of the general audience, nobody even knows that this film is coming out at this stage, except for the people that are in the know. That is a dangerous way to live. All right, one of the things I'm going to be including along with my affiliate links down in the description of my videos now is if you guys want to help support my channel, every video has a button where you can help support the channel by donating, and I'm also going to put a PayPal Me link. If you guys ever want to support the channel, you can do it there as well. I appreciate all of your guys' support. I've had a huge month here on YouTube. I've gained almost 800 subs just in the last month alone, which is my biggest month ever. And also, it looks like I'm going to have the most views and the highest month I've ever had on YouTube, and I have you guys to thank for that. I cannot do my channel without your support. I appreciate your support. I promise you I'm always going to be real, and I'm always going to keep it real. I do appreciate it. We will see you guys on the next video.